The Final Orbit is out. Astronaut and best-selling author Chris Hadfield joins us with the third thriller in his Apollo murder trilogy. We say good morning to him from Toronto this morning. Thanks so much for joining us. And thank you for putting a spectacular ending to this trilogy. I think it's my favorite book of the three.
Well, I'm glad you've enjoyed it, and never say never. There may be a surprise fourth book, but we'll see. For now, it's the third book in the series, and I'm really pleased that you enjoyed reading it.
I think what made me enjoy this the most is how scary it is now. Like, it's set in the 1970s, and there's a secret Chinese space program, and you think about all the secrecy that's going on now, way up there.
The reality of what we're looking at in the world right now, with a new space race, with a Canadian going to the moon in February, with the Chinese walking on the moon within 4.5 years, the untapped mineral resources of the moon, and then all of the stuff that's happening in Earth orbit with the change in rocket technology. It's a pretty amazing moment. So I think it's quite interesting to go back to 1975 with the rise of the Chinese space program, with the Cold War, with the conflict that was going on and the tensions in orbit then, and the attempts at peaceful cooperation in space at the same time. It's a pretty good mirror to hold up to the present day.
I like, too, that in the back of this book, as with the others, you list the real characters, because many parts of this book really happened, and that makes it scary. You list, you know, the real people involved and the real experiences that happened.
Yeah, the vast majority of the new book, the new novel, Final Orbit, it's all real things, you know, real things that were happening in '75. They seem like thriller fiction, but, you know, the assassination attempts, 2 of them that summer on the U.S. President Gerald Ford, the bombings all across the United States with the revolutionary group, the Weather Underground, the rise of and selection of Chinese astronauts, all that stuff that was going on, and the abandoned space station, Skylab at the time, orbiting semi-derelict in orbit. All of those provided me with great room to build the action plot of Final Orbit.
And it seems odd to read about it, but this really happened as well. The Russians and Americans working together.
Yeah. It was the last flight of the Apollo program. And what do you do with the last flight, with the last rocket and the last capsule? They thought, why not make a symbolic and hopefully inspiring gesture of peace? And so the Soviets, the Russians launched their Soyuz. The Americans launched their last Apollo. And the 2 of them, the Americans called it Apollo Soyuz. The Soviets called it Soyuz Apollo. But they docked in orbit. And there was a very visible and, I don't know, symbolic handshake between the crew from the United States and the crew from the Soviet Union. And it led to then, when I flew in space on my first flight, helping to build Space Station Mir, and to the cooperation we continue to have this day on the International Space Station. You really need, especially in times of conflict, you need good examples and the occasional inspiring thing that people can go up to and go, yeah, it's not all bad. And that's what Apollo Soyuz was. And it's the very central thread of this novel of Final Orbit.
I like how you worked in there too, all these like learning moments. Like I learned in this book, you know, how when a spacecraft is re-entering orbit again, how, you know, how things burn up, how the weight has to be distributed. And one of the most telling things that I picked up and I went, oh, how the astronauts' food was color-coded.
Yeah, it's fun on board a spaceship when you're riffling through the food packet. You pull out, go blue, no, that's not me. Yellow, no, that's not me. Oh, red, okay, good, that's me. And then you Velcro it to the wall, so you know, okay, this is the food that I'm allowed to have. It was a simple solution. Maybe it's one of the main reasons astronauts can't be colorblind, so you don't steal somebody else's food.
Yeah, that would be a good excuse there. Yeah, but it's so only an astronaut could write this, and only you could write it this well. I've told so many people before, he's not just a great astronaut writer, he is a great writer. So thanks for this. I know your next big project, you've got a fun thing that you do, you've done for the last 6 years now. It's called Generator. Chris Hadfield's Generator. I want to talk about this.
Yeah, I think ideas are really important. And how do you make ideas entertaining so that people are intrigued by them and want to know more about them? And we started Generator before the pandemic and had multiple sold-out shows at Roy Thompson Hall and at Massey Hall in Toronto. And this is the first one since the pandemic. We bring in some amazing and surprising people from across the country and around the world to talk about some really cool new things that you haven't heard of. And the house band, we sort of discovered this band, but they become legend ever since. They go by the improbable name of Tupperware Remix Party, but they're great and visually very entertaining. They're guys from the East Coast, but it's an evening like no other. You got to be there to see it, and I host it. But I'm really looking forward to it. I think it's the 27th of November at Massey Hall, and of course Massey Hall is so beautiful now inside with the rebuild that they did.
Okay, so tickets are available for that now. Very entertaining read again. Thank you for chatting with us about Final Orbit. Chris Hadfield, thank you.
Thank you.